The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn. Today's guest is here to talk to us about a mother's journey in healing. Let's welcome Sara Nino. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Andrea.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm excited. I personally know Sara, so for people listening, if you kind of pick up on that while you're listening, that this isn't our first time meeting. I already know a little bit about Sara's story, but I think since we've talked in the past, there's probably a lot that's changed and happened for you. So I'm going to get a big update, I think, as all of us are.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Sara, you're really big now into somatic healing and all the healing work. And we were talking a lot about just that mirror image reflection that children will give to parents and how we can kind of see why they're struggling when it's obviously coming from within ourselves a little bit. But maybe we go back to where this started for you and why you even woke up in the first place.
For sure. It was certainly an awakening that I was not expecting at all. So yeah, the whole path really started in motherhood. One of my children went through a period of really debilitating anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Western medicine had already shown us that it was not the path that we were going to use. My youngest son is vaccine injured, and actually that might even be backing up where some of this process started, because I can just remember holding him in my arms at the doctor's office and completely separating from my intuition. Like, I remember the actual somatic feeling in my body of just handing him over and not only separating from my intuition, but giving away my power.
So, okay, when you're saying all this, is this like you're saying you gave him away to get his vaccines and...
Yeah, we had been really careful before that point, and we had an older son and we had heard all of the buzz. And so with our older son, we separated all of the vaccines, and the doctors really gave us a difficult time. It was so difficult to even go to the doctor's office. And my youngest son was 18 months, and we went in, and it was a weak moment for me. I think like the doctor caught me at a vulnerable time. And so she said, he's behind, he needs 10 vaccines.
Oh, wow.
10 vaccines. And I just said, do what you need to do. I don't have it in me today. I didn't think I had it in me today to fight with what I had put on a pedestal.
I get that. And it's not to the same level, but I feel like I see that in myself in motherhood, where you don't want the kids to have any more candy, but they're just already crazy. They're driving you nuts, and they're like, come on, please, please. And finally you're like, fine, just eat it. Just leave me alone.
Totally. And like, like I knew in my gut as they were doing it. And my son knew too. And it's been such an unwinding for him also. remembering the trust of our bodies.
Mhm.
So yeah, he from that moment on was a different child. And as we'll talk about subsequently, is on the spectrum.
Mhm.
And so yeah, that's where I think my remembering of like my power and my intuition and the power of my intuition really started.
Okay, so I have to stop because intuitively I know somebody is listening and wanting to hear more because I think there's going to be somebody listening to this episode and hearing a little bit of that story about your son and thinking, well, wait a minute, how exactly did you know? Because I've been questioning and wondering as well. And I think if that and I know this message is for somebody because I just feel it. So whoever it is, go ahead and
I
feel
feel
to,
it too.
feel free to reach out to either of us.
Certainly.
But because I remember hearing your story on a documentary, and I think you had said he was talking. And I mean, I remember at 18 months, I think that was about the time where doctors are asking you how much they're saying and what are they saying. And I remember with my oldest, I was like, oh, I'm going to like write down the words that she can say. And then I realized there wasn't a word she couldn't say. Every word I would ask her, can you say this? She'd repeat it. So she could repeat anything. So her ability to repeat was very high.
Certainly.
So if you were kind of in a similar boat, I can understand where then the after effect, because from what I remember was,
It was night and day.
Mhm.
That evening, we went home and he spiked a really high fever. And of
Okay.
course, we called and they told us to suppress it with, the typical Motrin and Tylenol. And they said, yes, this is just a normal reaction. Well, from that day forward, not forward, thankfully, we were able to unwind a lot of that really quickly. But he lost all of his language, which, yes, he had a very extensive language up until that point,
Mhm.
and shut out completely. Like it was like he wasn't here. We, at that point, were like, did he get hearing loss? Like, what is this? We couldn't figure out because he just went completely blank, was what it felt like.
Okay.
And so it was from there, we went back to the doctor and they said, this was a reaction
Mhm.
and there's nothing you can do about it. And then 6 months later, he was tested on the spectrum. And Mama Bear came out and said, no, I'm not accepting.
Yeah.
No, thanks. Like, I
Yeah.
will figure this out. And we were able to pretty quickly, like within a year, get the language back and
Oh, wow. Okay.
bring him. He still has a lot of challenges and a lot of emotional regulation challenges, but for the most
So
part,
do I on some days. So
I know, right, totally. Yeah,
we're all working through it.
yeah, definitely.
Gotcha. How did you help him with
We
that?
used a naturopath
Okay.
and went through a detox protocol for him. And honestly, what it's really been is I was so shut off emotionally myself for so long that I think as I had connected in and worked through the layers that I had been so shut off to in my body, I just began to naturally see him more regulated.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really incredible because he's
Okay.
such a
So,
mirror. He is really
yeah,
such a mirror.
I was gonna say, do you want to dive into the whole mirror topic? Because I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
this is new to them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think I knew anything about mirroring until, I don't know, I want to say like a year and a half ago. So,
Yeah. Also, so we were looking for a method for dealing with that debilitating anxiety that wasn't Western medicine. Because at that point, and honestly, like once we separated from Western medicine, most ailments that our children had, ear infections, constant croup, everything went away once we like separated from that model
Mhm.
of medicine and
Yeah.
healing. So we were using a really holistic approach for this
But we're
debilitating.
not giving medical advice. Okay. I would
Definitely
not say
not.
that.
Definitely not. And I will say just really quickly that my son's appendix ruptured earlier in the year. And what saved his life was Western medicine. So
Mhm.
there's certainly a
Time and
time
place.
and place
Mhm.
for sure. Okay. So we were dealing with the anxiety from a really holistic place. We were seeing chiropractors and The chiropractor then led us to an incredible somatic therapist. And I went to one of the sessions because I was trying to understand how I could support the process
Mhm.
and started opening my boxes. I had all of these. I believe trauma is just something challenging occurring a lot of times in childhood.
Mm.
And because we don't have support, our caregivers are not capable of supporting the difficult situation. We just
But they also don't always know, and, like, I look
totally,
back on a lot of things that I went through as a child, my parents didn't know because I didn't talk about
totally,
it, but I think
totally.
I also didn't even know it was a problem emotionally for me. I just kind of held on to it, the stuff that we deal with at school or wherever, and, like, just it was more like little things that maybe somebody had said or done, and they sat with me, and they were triggering, but
For
did ever know
sure.
about it? Yeah.
For sure. So, yeah, the first session that I went to with this somatic therapist just
Mhm.
opened up one box and really layers of old emotion and tension that I didn't even realize I was carrying were finally supported.
Mhm.
The therapist was finally like helping me to open up the box, feel what was inside of it, hold it with grace, love, compassion, and then bring it into the wholeness of who I was, who I am, who
Mhm.
I want to be.
Mhm.
And so it was just this huge awakening for me to how much our bodies hold and how true healing happens when we finally listen to our bodies. We also used a beautiful energy healer, and that work became a part of our lives. So I noticed how beautifully like energy work and somatic work were able to complement each other.
Mhm.
And they both supported such a process of clearing and coming home to myself. So in that process, and then again in like my younger son, who his sensitivity is such beautiful gift to him. And it's such a challenge. It
Mhm.
is such a challenge. But he continues to just be my greatest teacher. So he mirrors back all of the energy, like I said, of the household so purely, it's impossible for me not to pay attention.
Yeah, talk about that again, though, because we were talking about that before we started filming, and it's very interesting, the energy of the household and how you can kind of know what's going on when you look at the children.
For sure. I believe I believe my son to be very sensitive, not only to like the energy of other people, very empathic. He's also very sensitive to collective energy. So I feel his body can feel when something big is coming in the collective and he anticipates it and really shows,
Mhm.
you know, times and places where he needs more tools
Mhm.
or to prepare his body for what is coming. And I just see it as an invitation,
Mhm.
an opportunity to deepen within myself and deepen within connection with him, connection. Like he can feel if something's off in the marriage. He can feel if something is like he feels so deeply. And no longer do we try to shut him down.
Mhm.
For a really long time, we had him in ABA therapy and they just wanted to put him into a box. They just wanted him to comply with whatever it was they were trying to get to shut him down, shut the emotion off.
Mhm.
And I'm just now at a point where, no, actually, let's welcome the emotion.
Well, and let's ask why this is happening, because I see that
Exactly.
with my older one, she's 7, almost 8, so it's not her emotions are as dysregulated as a 4-year-old, but my
Right.
4-year-old, we definitely see it at times, and I have to pull myself, like, because you can get sucked into their energy of, like, feeling frazzled and feeling the frustration as well,
And then you're mirroring each
and
other.
then it's a mess, and so I try to, yeah, kind of disassociate from that and pull myself out and look at her and think, "Okay, like, what is going on in her little brain right now? What is she feeling, and why is she feeling this way, and how can I help her?"
It's
Because
like
she's
stepping outside of what is happening for us.
Mhm.
For me, taking a pause is the greatest gift
Mhm.
and also shows them. that a pause is totally acceptable in life.
Mhm.
Our society and this life that we're in is like rush to the next thing, the next. Fill your day with as much as possible with no time and space
Mhm.
for just
Yeah.
a simple pause.
Mhm.
And I think that's what so much of my work also is just, let's just take a pause,
Yeah.
slow the pace of life down
Yeah.
and connect in.
Mhm.
And so for me in motherhood, when my son is having a big emotion, it's like my first instinct many times, because it's what I've learned, is like, shut it off. But that's just my system saying this emotion feels like too much for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so if I can separate and settle myself, then I can go back to that big emotion and hold space and a container for it.
Mhm.
Instead,
Yeah.
because I just see when we hold emotion, what happens to our bodies,
Mhm.
right? It
Illness.
gets trapped. Yeah, exactly. Dis-ease,
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah.
And so many times I'll have a client come in and say, with a physical ailment, and I'm like, yeah, let's connect in. It's got something to communicate. This is a beautiful opportunity.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I'm always, as a parent, trying to let's express the emotion in a healthy way
Mhm.
instead of shutting it down.
Yeah. I agree because I try to do the same with my kids. But I mean, I'm not perfect and it sometimes
Neither am
takes
I.
me a minute. And sometimes it's like later that day, I'm like, oh man, I didn't do that right. Like I really,
And that is right there. Again, like such an opportunity, because grace is one of the core words of our family is grace. Not only like giving ourselves grace, but giving our children grace, giving the disgruntled driver on the road grace, right?
Mhm.
And how do we teach that? But with making a mistake
Mhm.
and then going in for repair,
Exactly.
right? So I apologize to my children probably 20 times a day.
Yeah.
Not that often, and probably should. So, yeah, if we can take the pause as parents, and instead of reacting to the big emotion, the quarrel among siblings, whatever it is, if we can take a pause and come into the situation from a regulated place
Mhm.
ourselves, then we're not just bouncing. Because my son being so sensitive, I have learned when I come in, when I meet his big energy with big energy, then
Mhm.
we've doubled the energy
Yeah.
and just amplified. Where if I come in from a really regulated place and check myself before I respond to him, then it usually settles so much of the issue. And
Well,
then
and
we
when
can
you're,
deal with what the issue is, right?
yeah, when you're saying coral, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, like, come on, we all deal with this as mothers where we have our kids just like
Totally.
at each other, and
Totally.
you're like, oh my gosh. But then you usually see if they can work it out. So, and then it just starts escalating and it's getting worse. Well, then you are trying to step in. Then at that point, sometimes you're feeling frustrated because it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is
For
ridiculous. And
sure.
it's hard. But yes, so yeah, you have to try to take that pause so that you can step in a more centered and balanced place and actually help them and not just amplify the energy of the situation. But I mean, gosh, I'm probably 50-50 on that one because when the two are fighting, it's always something so ridiculous.
And it just
Yeah.
triggers what it does is it triggers something within us. Like my intention is always to come into life from a neutral place.
Mhm.
And the only way for me to do that is for me to deal with, why did that trigger me?
Mhm.
What within me, which is honestly usually some little inner child who's living
Yeah.
within me, why did that trigger them? Because I
I've talked
can't
about
come
that.
to, yeah,
I talked about that a lot before when I first started the energy work. I was like, I love to be triggered. Somebody trigger me because that's the opportunity to work on something like, why am I being triggered? But I think it can always be a little bit different. But sometimes when the kids are fighting and then I can't seem to calm them down, or the fact that they were fighting in the first place, I feel like a failure as a mother because I
mm,
haven't taught them how to be
mm,
kind to each other and get along.
mm. But I mean, it's such a part of being human,
It is.
quarreling. And they are, from my perspective and my belief, they're just mirroring something to each other.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so my youngest, who is on the spectrum and sensitive, has been such a gift for our whole family because it led me to a deep dive into myself, but not necessarily my older son, right? He's not going to like, or my husband. And I've really had to share the work and share what my son's experience is for my husband and older son.
Mhm.
And really, like, we just need to give each other grace
Mhm.
and compassion.
Yeah. I can see this when you're talking about the mirroring and like picturing them fighting or even picturing myself like as an adult in situations. But yeah, you're right. It often is probably coming about in the first place, not because they both were angry. One of them got angry first. And then because the other one felt the other one's anger, then now they're just also angry too. And they're just mirroring that other person's. Because I've had situations, it wasn't that long ago, maybe a year ago, but somebody like rolled out his window and was yelling at me for not turning on my blinker, which I actually had, but he illegally made a lane change. So it didn't even matter what I was doing. Like he shouldn't have been doing what he was doing in the first place, but he was like yelling at me. And I feel like maybe 10 years ago, I probably would have like came right back at him, but I definitely didn't. I was just like, I'm going to pray for you.
Yeah,
'Cause
for
you're so
me,
angry.
this is also where the energy work comes in. And like for myself, knowing when to differentiate what is my energy and what is my son's energy.
Mhm.
And like really keeping myself in a very centered, grounded place,
Mm.
calling my energy back to myself, releasing what isn't mine,
Yeah.
and teaching my sons to do the same. Because yes, we are going to go out and be faced with it's a world where not everybody is living as consciously as we are,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Many people are just reacting instead of knowing what's underneath the reaction. And so that's where, for me, the energy work is so important and
Yeah,
like staying in my bubble, you know,
I think
and
that's
teaching
what
my son.
I think that's probably the biggest takeaway from this episode will be for people to really look at what's underneath those big emotions of your children's, of your own. Really look at why you're having these really big emotions, and then you're going to stop having them as much for sure.
For sure. Because, like I said, so much of those big emotions probably originated in childhood. And so, what it really is just a little inner child communicating to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, another thing I've learned to do is, and what I do with 90% of my clients, is we just sit with their inner children and we bring them into the space and just say what's feeling tender. It's like you said, that beautiful word opportunity. It's all an opportunity being shown to us. And the inner children, if we start to learn their triggers, then when we feel them and start to become like more attuned to the messages that our bodies are giving us, then we can start to know, oh, that's just my little 4-year-old self who just wants to go play or needs me to take her to the hammock to just relax,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah,
I think connecting in with our inner children is key.
it definitely is. This is all reminds me of this. There was a social media, and now I'm trying to remember all the details, but there was something on social media, and it was this older woman sitting in a chair, and her daughter's interviewing her about gentle parenting. And
Mhm.
the old lady's going off on it. And the woman interviewing her, they're both against it. And so she's asking, Mom, did you ever do this when I didn't eat my dinner or this or that and all these things? And it was like, hell no. And the lady's just like, I beat you. I did this. I did that. And it was just like, this is all great and this is all perfect. And the majority of the comments on that thread are like, yes, we need to toughen up as parents. We need to toughen up. And I couldn't help myself, but I commented, I'm like, did anyone here ever stop to think that that way of parenting may actually be the reason we now have gentle parenting? We have so many people traumatized by their childhood with their parents, or even not probably, I know in very like extreme sports, like even some of the coaches will beat the children and things like that. And So I asked that question and oh man, like I was surprised. It's actually starting lately and this was weeks ago, but now I'm still getting like likes or comments on my comment. But I've got a lot of comments back on, oh, you must be one of those gentle parents. But some people have supported my way of thinking, but the majority, they just think that we just need to slap our kids around. But what they don't realize is it causes so much more trauma. And look at the mental health epidemic that we have going on. Like, seriously, just
Without a doubt,
really,
I truly just see my children at this point. I haven't always, and give myself grace for the decade of parenting where I did not see my children as humans. I simply see my children as humans just like me.
yeah,
And to me, at the core, we're all pure love. Mhm. I just believe that underneath the layers, underneath the programming, underneath, and like you said, the traumas, we're pure love. And so if I see my children as pure love, it's like, what is the behavior that you're expressing, communicating to me?
pure love is definitely the center of who we are meant to be. And I think along the way, we all get a little lost. But that's part of the show.
It
Bringing everybody back, waking
is.
up your
It
soul, coming back to
is.
center.
Yeah. One day, just the name rooting in love like popped into me. And I think it's one of the things that it just dropped in, as so much does these days.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things that I think I'm known for is being very rooted and being able to like hold a very grounded space.
Yeah. So Sarah
Um,
wrote a book where you wrote an ebook and it's called Writing
yes,
in Love, Coming Home to
yes,
Yourself, which I love.
yes,
I love that. Coming home to yourself. I love
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a book that, as we'll get into, a lot of my work is blending both somatic and energy work. And so it just introduces my process and then gives multiple journal prompts for people to be able to start connecting in with the wisdom of their body.
I
And
think people get
yes.
overwhelmed with this work a little bit and the inner child stuff and thinking about their childhood. And I think there's a mixture of people wanting to just leave it behind and not touch that again. Like that was my childhood. I'm over it, whatever. But are you saying that with happiness in your heart or I just don't want to go to that place? And then there's the people that also struggle to even get there. But I think we all are going to struggle a little bit to get back to the places that hurt us the most because with trauma, it gets so deeply rooted that we can't even see it, hear it, feel it, or anything. And so you really just, I mean, go
I,
ahead, your take on it, but I feel
yeah, I
like,
was that person for the
and
first
to people,
half.
I think people are going to wonder, how do I get there?
For
How do I
sure.
start hearing and feeling those things again? And I think it's a little bit of you can try and do it on your own, and that's okay. But then sometimes you hire somebody to help step in because I've definitely helped people where I've stepped in and then I give them that kind of awakening to certain moments in their life that were actually the cause of why they are the way they are right now.
Definitely. It's so much of my story is I was completely turned off for a really good reason. My
Mhm.
body was so protective
Protective.
and did such an amazing job of keeping me safe in some really challenging times.
Mhm.
And so instead of looking at that from a place of judgment,
Mhm.
I again just try to come into it from a place of neutrality.
Mhm.
And first, so much of my work is like thanking the body for the ways that it has protected us and shutting us down.
But it's okay to come in that place of judgment as long as you have the awareness that you are doing.
Oh, no, come in as you are,
Mhm.
is what I say in my
Mhm.
work is like, come in as you
Yeah.
are. There is nothing expected of you.
Mhm.
You are so divinely where you are meant to be. Every experience, every unraveling, all of the layers unfolding is meant in like because I can see it in my own journey. I think is the reason that I'm so able to firmly say, come in as you are. It's going to unfold exactly as it's meant to. And with, yeah, I think so much of it is with support, so many of our traumas and challenges were simply that we weren't supported in a challenge
Mhm.
in an interpersonal relationship. And so without a person holding the container and giving the grace and love and compassion, I think it can be very challenging.
Mhm. And I think there's events that we went through that, yes, we weren't supported in a way, but then there's also things where it's not necessarily that we weren't supported, but we were children and our brains weren't developed and we had no idea how to interpret things. When somebody comes at you and says something horrible, depending on your environment and how you're being raised and taught at home and in school, when somebody says something mean to you, how do you take that in? We can take it in multiple ways, but as kids, we really only take it in one way. And that one way is however we've been trained or taught. And so if you have parents that find it to be criticizing if somebody says negative, then you're going to do the same. If you have parents that are like, hey, this is a learning opportunity to become a better you, or it's a learning opportunity to understand why that person is saying what they're saying and where they are at and what they're dealing with. Because a lot of times people are just self-reflecting their own feelings, right?
For
Uh,
sure.
that's deep and that's a lot for a child, right?
It is so much. And I don't know, in our family, we have such a simple lifestyle. Like our kids are no longer in more than one sport at a time. We homeschool, so we do have the luxury of having a very slow paced life. And for a couple of years, we traveled full time as a family of four, my husband, my two boys, and I. And I began taking on this word of intentionality.
Right.
What is my intention? What am I trying to do in motherhood right now? And how are our decisions reflecting that? So I'm not just going to say, but then it's like, how are our decisions? But I had to be really intentional with myself
Mhm.
and couldn't overfill my schedule. And, like all the things had to start saying no, had to start like, what is authentic to me? And if
Yeah,
it's not,
I went through that. I just saying no. Like I was such a yes person and wanted to like please everybody and fit everything in and I can make it happen. And I think it was maybe too much self-belief, but it was like, I can do this. I got this. And I would just overload the schedule.
for sure,
And
me
then I would
too.
rest. And,
I
and
can't believe I was ever that parent. When I look back at myself and when I look at life now, I'm like, well, I had to be shut off then.
yeah,
My body had to be shut off as a coping, right?
coping for
The
sure.
only way I could do what I did was to be shut off
Mhm.
from my body, disconnected,
Yeah.
completely disconnected.
Yeah. So how did you come about to writing the ebook?
Because what happened was I started to, as I was seeing clients, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
I just started to realize that I was actually blending two modalities into one because both somatic and energy work were so integral in my story and my process and our family's process and supporting our children. I didn't go into my sessions thinking I'm going to blend these two modalities, and it just became what I was doing.
Mhm.
And I don't think that it has to be as difficult as people think that it's going to be. I think it, again, with intention, can be a very gentle process
Mhm.
of coming inward and connecting with yourself. And one of the things that I really like and is a huge part of that ebook is journaling
Yeah.
as a way of like connecting in and actually just starting to get to know our bodies and
Mhm.
what are the sensations first, what are the sensations or lack of sensations,
Mhm.
because lack of sensation is communication also.
Mhm.
But what are those sensations or lack of? What are they communicating to us,
Mhm. Yeah.
slowing us
Mhm.
down? Like it's just so clear now when I can be connected. First, you have to be connected.
Mhm.
We are so unique and we all, our gifts come through in such different ways. I am not a seer.
Mhm.
My body is what communicates to me so clearly. All of my knowing is through my body.
I feel like I feel and I see a little bit more than I hear. I think my hearing is my worst sense,
Yeah.
but Yeah, I feel like when I go into it's so funny. So actually this happened this weekend when we were in New York on this trip, but I don't think she'll mind. But my friend was having some anxiety, and so I was like, "Well, do you want me to help you?" Because I don't just like, push myself on somebody.
No.
When it comes to this, I do believe this is divine energy, and it's not my place
Yes.
to
Nope.
deliver it, bring it if it's not being asked for.
For
And
sure.
and so I asked her, and she's like, "Yes." And so, like, yes, I've done a lot of stuff remotely, healing work, so I'm sure you're familiar with
Yes.
remote stuff too.
Yes.
So it can be done either way. Sometimes it can be a little better and stronger in person, I think,
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
and if you're together, why not? So I placed my hand, I think one hand on her shoulder, one hand on her leg, and I just sat there bringing in the energy to calm her down, and she's like, "Whoa." Like, she could really feel it, but it was funny because I could feel all that she was feeling, and I could feel things moving and releasing, and then I could feel so much tingling in my face, and I actually hadn't said anything, and she's like, "Gosh, my whole head was, like, tingling
Yes.
like crazy."
And
And sometimes I think people aren't meant to have you help them at that moment in time. There's something greater that they need to work through before just having you step in and kind of pull it away.
again, a huge part of our story with my son. We've always used chiropractic. And when I was pregnant, the chiropractor tried to warn us about vaccines. And I trusted him. And somehow I had a doctor on a higher pedestal. When my son first had that experience, I was definitely like, no, everybody needs to hear this. Everybody needs to know
Yeah.
this. And tried to share the message far and wide, and was frequently met with, this person isn't ready for
Mhm.
this message. And so I've now like just come back to myself and remembered I wasn't ready for that
Yeah.
message. I had
Yeah.
experience. It was
I
so divine and such a part of my process.
yeah, I completely understand that. I've been in similar situations too. Like, you just have to be ready for it. And yeah, I agree. Everybody's going to come to their own conclusions on everything based on the world that they're living in until you go through something. Like, I've never dealt with the things that you have dealt with. I can only imagine. But I think it's really important you keep sharing that story because for me, that's what's helped me the most in my own growing and waking up my soul and just and getting well again. I was so sick for so long, and it's such a laundry list. And so got the pacemaker and ulcerative colitis and arthritis and then autonomic dysfunction and then Lyme disease. And then they thought I had ALS. And so it was just like, but also I could see that there was something shouting at me. Like, I needed to do something different because I
Yes.
got to the point where I was like, why? Like, why does this keep happening? It's just, it's health problem after health problem. I didn't eat that poorly, and I still don't think I did. But now I've done a lot of different things, genetic testing. Like, I can have the same diet as you, and it's going to do different things to my body than it does to yours. Same with alcohol, right? There's actually a genetic component to that where some people can process alcohol well and some cannot. And so I think genetics are a huge thing.
And again, the same thing with my son. We just know now that he is
Mhm.
sensitive. He is empathic and sensitive. And so, like the vaccines,
Yeah.
are going to affect him
Yeah.
in a different way. There's plenty of people who have had the same number of vaccines
Just
and nothing is showing in
yeah.
their
Yeah.
bodies as an issue. They didn't have the same reaction
Mhm.
as him. I know it's a whole rabbit hole we could go down.
Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to share as far as your journey and how people can kind of come to this place of coming home to them?
Yeah, the coming home to yourself, like what does that even feel like for people? I can share the process a little bit of what a session would look like. As I said, I blend the two modalities and we connect in with the body. My sessions tend to be a pretty slow pace.
Okay.
So connecting in with the body just through a few breaths
Mhm.
and then calling their energy back to them and releasing what doesn't serve them. And then we really go into the body. And what is a sensation that you are immediately drawn to in your body? But I think that there's such wisdom. I think every sensation is just like tap, tap. Can you listen to me? Because honestly, your body is just trying to protect you. And so some appreciation for the places and spaces where we're being protected or managed or controlled, and then going underneath that. And what usually comes forward is an inner child. And so we try to connect as deeply as possible with that inner child and get to the origination of where the sensation came from. So if we can get to the origination, I truly believe in like getting to the root as far back as we're ready for. Yeah. And so it's really attuning, I believe firmly in reparenting ourselves, and that we have a responsibility just to repair. Right?
Yep.
So it's really about coming home to ourselves and finding that love within you, because then that love so easily ripples to your family, ripples to your children.
I think we've lost touch with loving ourselves and loving others. It's a wild world. There's a lot of anger, but there's a lot of happiness too. I don't want to polarize this and say that it's just all bad, because it's not. I think there's definitely a collective that is awakening in the world, and we can't all live in this great place of love, but it takes work. Sarah, where can people find your ebook?
So I have a website, rootinginlove.com.
Okay.
And Instagram, rootingin.lovehealing.
Okay.
So both of those places.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where would you like people to connect with you? Through your website or Instagram? Is that the best?
Yeah, either one of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Well, it's really a movement of just remembering.
Yeah.
Remembering.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey.